I was growing up, girls just didn't run in public.
No one on my all-boys team would pass to me.
Dad told me I couldn't be a boxer. He said I was too small.
There was a guy who tried to spit on me and then push me out of his way.
There comes a point where you have to be sure of yourself. People aren't used to women being so passionate. It scares them.
One day, I just said it doesn't matter what other people think.
I'm a fashion model who can dunk.
I'm a girl. That doesn't mean I have to wear a skirt.
Doesn't mean I can't get all fired up. They used to say, that girl is crazy.
But then I just kept winning.
I didn't set out to dominate. I just did.
Somebody's got to be the best. So why not me?
I'm 55 years old and I run close to 70 miles a week.
I never felt like quitting.
There's something telling me to do it every single day. Just want to play ball.
This was one of the great civil rights bills of all time, and to have the women here who made that happen, and then to do it here in New York, to do it at Lincoln Center, this is pretty special.
It's great that we're here tonight, you know, with Coca-Cola and NCAA. And what happens when you get together like this and have a focus on the past, what it really does is it gets us into action for the present and for the future, because it's like a relay race. Each generation passes the baton to the next one.
The generation of today will be the voices for Title IX to have another 40 years that we can celebrate.
You know, this is a very exciting moment for me because I have benefited from Title IX and from the hard work of these women who I'm, you know, standing next to.
You know, it gives me chills thinking about a time when, you know, we weren't allowed to compete and we weren't allowed to do what we love and have a passion for. So we've come a long way.
I recognize that it wasn't always there, that the Billie Jean Kings and the Donna Deveronas that came before me really did pave the way for my opportunity. And when people say, what does Title IX mean to me, I lay it out very simply. It was opportunity.
I'm so proud to represent the Coca-Cola Company, again, for this 40th anniversary of probably one of the most transformational pieces of legislation that has affected education as well as athletics.
Okay, so I'm here with Michelle Hinks, our CSU EB Athletics Student Advisor, and I have a few questions for you today. To start off, I'd like to ask you, how many years have you played or involved yourself around sports?
I mean, definitely most of my life, so just turned 26, so probably 26 years. I grew up going to basketball courts. My mom was always like in adult leagues and stuff. So she'd like bring coloring books and we'd be sitting in the bleachers and taking naps and stuff while she was playing. And then I did YMCA, so like indoor soccer, basketball, just whatever they had. Played basketball in elementary school and high school, and then track, cross country. Started playing basketball in college until I got hurt. So,
Basketball your favorite?
Yeah, it was probably what I was most adequate at, being tall, so yeah.
Okay, so compared to now and back then when you played, or say even your mom's point of view, or however you want to look at it, how different is the level of competitiveness in female sports today than it was back then, about 20 years ago?
I think it's really different. So like back when she played, she started out playing at Cal. She played basketball, and then she transferred to San Francisco State and played. And she said that one of the reasons why she transferred is because San Francisco State was better. And that would never happen now. They would never be better than Cal, you know? Because Cal's in Division I and San Francisco State's in Division II, but they didn't have divisions back then. So they played Cal State East Bay, you know, at Cal, and they played Sonoma, and they just played whoever was around. And it was just much more of a like geographic thing, kind of like when you're in high school. And definitely not like, you know, the skill level wasn't, it was just, you know, whatever you came with kind of thing. And I think, you know, there was never a WNBA back then or anything like that.
So definitely now, today, everything's more organized.
Yeah, for sure. College, after I got hurt, I was the manager for the men's and women's basketball programs. I still wanted to stay involved. I still really liked, you know, being around sports. That's where all my friends were. That was kind of what I knew. And then when I transferred, I also, I was a sport management major in college, so I'm still definitely very affiliated with it that way. And, worked a lot of the baseball games as part of my class projects, and, did stuff with the football team, had a lot of friends on the basketball team, stuff like that. So I've definitely, stayed close to it. And then I did an internship in the athletics department at Creighton University at the end of my undergrad. So, yeah, definitely something that I've stayed with.
Okay. Now, do you think that females are treated differently or maybe less equally than male athletes are?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even, programs like, for example, our basketball teams this year, the women made it to the final round of the conference tournament. The men, unfortunately, had a rough year, with injuries and stuff, just did not play as well. They didn't win near as many games, but, if you look at attendance, there was always a handful of people at the women's game and then way more people at the men's game. And it almost seems like it has nothing to do with winning or losing, because the women just, won more than the men this year. But, the men's game was like the big thing. And when they talk about revenue generating sports, it's always football, men's basketball, maybe women's basketball, and that's it.
Also, according to your answer, why do you think people might show more support towards male athletes than females? Do you think it may be more of an exciting factor, or?
Unfortunately, I do think it is a little bit of that. I mean, to watch, like soccer, for example, if you watch men's soccer, they're just bigger, more aggressive, they run faster. It's a more exciting thing to watch. Sometimes, in basketball, maybe they might do some cooler moves that maybe the women don't do, although I think they're coming a long way with that. Men can dunk, many fewer women can dunk. So I think that does kind of play a role, but also I think, it's just not viewed the same still. Women doing sports is kind of like that's something fun that they do on the side, because, they're going to go into their careers maybe, or they're just going to get married and become mothers. I feel like our society still has that kind of outlook, whereas men, it's like, maybe they'll go on and maybe this is their career, and, even though that would definitely be short-lived if that was the case, it's just something where it's just placed more importance on for a man, I think.
So, dating back to 1973, there was a law called Title IX that became official. And behind that law, it was to ensure that women and girls are treated more fairly in athletic programs and just about the same benefits that males receive. Would you say that this law has been successfully executed for the most part?
I'd probably say yes. I mean, not being super familiar with all the wording to the legislation. I think that the intent was definitely good, to have equality and definitely promote women's sports. I think that some of the execution wasn't necessarily great in terms of schools that have had to limit men's programs and cut men's programs just because of the numbers and having to be equal. I think that, if you have an established football team or wrestling team or something like that, and you just don't have maybe the interest for a women's sport or enough women's sports to add to equal that out, I don't think that the men should necessarily be punished just because, that's something new and the women aren't interested in, or you don't have that interest yet. I think that that's a situation where it's been more unfair to men to cut those programs just to say we have to be equal for women. I don't think it has to be equal to be fair necessarily. I mean, I don't think that we should take away opportunities just because other people aren't maybe taking advantage of them yet or don't have them. Part of the original plan, but that just seems like an oversight and something that was a big bummer for a lot of schools and a lot of people.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it seems like, well, in my opinion, I feel like that at least the girls at our school, they get treated fairly and have the same amount of benefits and access to the same things that we use as the training room and the track and everything. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's pretty fair. So we've hired a new athletic director by the name of Joan McDermott, and she's now the head of our athletic department. How could this be beneficial or maybe motivate the female athletes that are in our sport program?
I think it's always great to see someone that you can identify with in a power role, especially with Joan. She is the head of NACWA, which is the National Association of Women's Athletic Administrators, I think. So to see someone that is obviously invested in professional development and puts value on that to be in the top leadership position, I think is really important. And I think it shows everyone like, hey, like this is something that you can strive to be. This is something that you can aspire to. So I think that's great for all of our women athletes to see, and not only them, but also all the women in the department. One of the things that she talked about when she was interviewing was, we should be promoting from within. We should be growing our people, developing our people to move up and, do whatever they want to do, better things, things like that, whether it be in our own department or in other departments. But I think that those are great values to have, and I think that a woman bringing that in is really great for all of us.
Okay, staying on topic of our athletic director, do you think our new athletic director gets paid or has the same salary that a male athletic director would have compared to her being a female? Because I know there's not many female athletic directors around to this day. Majority of them are male dominant. So how do you think that they handle the financial part of that due to her being a female? Would you say it's the same? She gets treated the same, or would she get treated differently?
I mean, I'd like to say it's the same, but then, you look at other information that's out there from other schools, and then you kind of wonder, even looking at, our coaching salaries, they're not necessarily the same.
All different.
Yeah. And, some of that might be due to, what is, market value right now for that position within Division II or conference or something like that. So it might differ, but, you look at, Jim Harbaugh is making millions now just being a football coach at a college. And, granted, that's D1, but there are a lot of coaches at D2 levels that make exorbitant amount of money, and, typically male coaches of revenue-generating sports. So I don't know. And then also, another thing that goes into that is women. One of the reasons why they say that women sometimes make less than men, or women typically do make less than men, is because when women are offered a job, they don't generally negotiate as strictly for their salary as men do, because they are more, I don't want to say egotistical, but they think more of themselves, and so they are more willing to say oh no, I think I deserve this. And women are more likely to be thankful for getting the job opportunity, and will kind of take what they get, kind of thing. Yeah. So, that might play a role. I don't know. Joan has excellent credentials, so hopefully, she's getting something that would be great for a man or a woman. But yeah, that one's kind of hard to say.
And she's our third female athletic director?
Yes.
You said?
Yep. Yeah, we've actually had women in that role for a while now, several years. So that's been a pretty cool thing. We were really hoping for a woman, actually, some of us in the office. When we were doing the search, we're like, wow, it'd be weird to have a man as the athletic director.
Well, it looks like Title IX might be paying off.
Yeah.
It's the third one in a row.
Yeah, and if you look at the women or the positions in our office, most of them are filled by women. We only have one man in the office, but yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yep.